been publishing for the textile manufacturing industry now for over 140 years, and we still publish 7 different textile magazines. One of those is called Digital Textile, and we started publishing Digital Textile magazine back in 2003. And in 2003 there was a promise, shall we say, from the technical manufacturers, the technology manufacturers, for a new future in printing onto fabrics and onto apparel digitally, rather than the traditional screen process. And I think I would be, if I'm honest with you, for us, we didn't really see any huge development in the market, any upsurging growth until about 2011. And since then, the market has grown dramatically and has had a huge impact on our business. As a company, we've been with the industry almost from the start. And as such, as Michael has alluded to, we have built up a lot of knowledge about digital textile printing. And as a result of that, we've taken our traditional publishing business and developed a new part to it around market intelligence. And the first product that we've launched in that space, we launched earlier this year, around digital textile printing. I gave you a little bit of history on WTiN, just a very brief little bit of history for those of you who are not familiar with the market. It's probably been around a bit longer than the late 90s, but we really started to see something happening around about the late 90s. And back then, the speeds with which fabrics were printed were quite slow. Under 10 meters of fabric was being printed in an hour. And now that's increased dramatically, with some machines, as Michael mentioned, 75 meters of high quality printed fabric in a minute. So we've seen a dramatic evolution in the technology, as we seem to do with a lot of technologies in a very short period of time. That's led to a market now that is knocking on the door, probably already has opened the door, on a production volume of 1 billion square meters of printed fabric in a year. This is still quite a small percentage of the whole market for printing onto fabric. However, as you can see, it's growing incredibly quickly. One thing you'll notice as well is that at the moment, nearly 40% of manufacturing is taking place here in Europe. However, with Europe being first into this market, that's probably not a surprise. And there are other markets that are emerging and growing very fast. South America is predominantly Brazil, and Brazil is growing fast. The US is really taking off. We're aware of a project that Walmart have instigated that will lead to them producing the majority of their apparel where it needs printing, printing digitally, starting in 2017. And when someone of that scale takes such an initiative, you sit up and take notice. So there's a big impact taking place in the US market. Probably about 20% of the 35% of manufacturing that's coming out of Asia is coming from China, of course. And this has been a little bit of a revelation for the whole industry, if you like, outside of China in the last 12 months from the research that we've done as a business, because it was felt that China was actually quite modest in comparison to its traditional textile manufacturing. But in reality, it's already very significant and growing incredibly quickly, both in terms of the manufacturing of the fabric, the printing of the fabric, and also the technology. They're developing their own technology, which is of extremely high quality. what's driving the market, retail, the consumers. Firstly, the technology is delivering a quality of print that puts screen printing into the shade. The definition and the quality of digital textile printing can be extremely high in comparison, enabling you to deliver a vibrancy in the design and the colours that screen printing just can't match. But also, of course, screen printing has delivered the mass production that markets require. And really only until recently it was screen printing that could do that, to deliver those high volumes. But not anymore. There are large machines coming into the market, industrial scale machines that can deliver, as I've already said, incredibly high volumes of fabric per minute. The trend for fast fashion also drives you towards digital textile printing. Samples can be turned around in a tenth of the time of producing a sample for screen. Runs can be a lot shorter if you wish, enabling you, of course, to carry lower inventory, which is always a nice benefit for the retailer. And then finally, sustainability. Michael mentioned this. It's just a lot kinder in the use of water. It generates an awful lot less noise for those working around those machines, uses less electricity, etc. So again, fitting the needs ultimately of consumers, driving the actions of the retailers. So I was alluding to these large machines that are coming onto the market. They only account, in terms of volume, of 0.1% of the machines that are in situ in the market. But they account for a significant amount of the actual volume that is being produced. And it's these developments that we're seeing as being the key development of 2015. So some of you, and maybe all of you, will be aware that we have the quadrennial ITMA exhibition in November, this time in Milan. And every 4 years, of course, because the development process in some of these large technologies does take that amount of time. And by the end of ITMA, we're expecting to see about 4 or 5 of these machines launched at ITMA. These are huge. They're certainly taller than me, and they certainly are an awful lot wider than this room, for those of you who haven't seen them. These are big machines. They account for about a third, perhaps, of the production worldwide. And it's these big machines now that are going to start to deliver the next phase of the development of this exciting industry. Where are these fabrics being used? Well, once again, perhaps the only thing perhaps in here that's a little bit different to the norm for us is that some of these fabrics are used in signage, retail banners, point of sale. But the vast majority, nearly a half, is for apparel, is in fashion, as well as sportswear, and indeed home textiles. As Michael said, we run a conference at the Home Textile exhibition, and home textiles is seeing significant growth. But the market is still around apparel. It's not the luxury end of fashion that is now driving this growth. It's coming out of the mid-market. We're seeing the market now move away from just luxury and to embrace the mid-market as well. Firstly, Italy. Really, this was at this was where the industry started for Europe, and has been a large part of its success to date, and its global strength. But Italy now is also, as I've just stated, moving away a little from the luxury end, more to the mid-market, and will continue to grow at a very exciting rate. 6% growth a year is something that a lot of industries would welcome very gratefully. So still a very important market within within Europe. Turkey has some very significant players. I'll just give you an example of one large-scale manufacturer. There's a company called Menderes Textile, very large, long-standing textile manufacturer. They have stated that by 2020 all of their printing will be done digitally, moving 100% away from screen. Such is their belief in the investment in the future through this technology. Spain, this is perhaps a lot about Inditex and what they're trying to do of course, with retail brands like Zara. Inditex is stimulating huge growth in the market down in Spain, and we expect them to enjoy that for a number of years to come as we see perhaps a similar type of transition as is taking place at Menderes in Turkey. And then finally, just a little bit closer to home, France is particularly strong in sportswear and is growing at a fairly significant rate from a pretty low base, admittedly. But one of its great strengths is in sportswear printing and developments it's making there. So what I would say is that in conclusion, we have, as a business, we've been in this industry now for 12 years. And initially it was difficult, and there wasn't a huge amount of success for us, or perhaps for the technology companies, or indeed for the printers, because it was really in its evolutionary stage. This is a market now that's growing at a very significant rate because the technology now delivers on the promise that it was making all those years ago, and is crucially fitting perfectly with the demands of retail, of brands, and of the consumers. And I think when you visit the show in February, what you'll see there is some very exciting opportunities presented by these technology manufacturers.